Or, I'm sorry, are we live?
Hang
JB?
on. Now we're good.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Education meeting for the Fort Zumwalt School District. If you would stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Roll call, Ms. Green.
Craig.
Here.
John.
Present.
Tommy.
Here.
Mike.
Yes.
Erica. Here. And Tom.
Here.
Our records will show that Mike McCormick is not here at this time.
Thank you very much. I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda that you have before you this evening.
I move for approval as presented.
Mr. Callahan, second.
Powers.
Powers, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And motion is passed. Come on forward, Mr. Mike. Time now for comments from the audience, and as we do, the comments for those that are online are received online, and I have a few here that I'd like to share with you tonight. First one is from Sean Long of Brimstone Corner in O'Fallon. Sean writes, I would appreciate if someone could help me make sense of the new AMI policy we've been introduced to over the last week. I was looking at my tax statement, and the percentage that ends up in the education coffer is exponentially more than any other line item on that invoice, which led me to ponder, why am I taking the day off work and not getting paid? Pay which I use to pay my taxes that pay for teachers, who for all intents and purposes get a paid day off. I know they are supposed to be available to answer email 1 hour or so, but I haven't found that help to be prompt or timely, so that I can stay at home and do a mediocre job at best of teaching unpaid and trying to guide my children through their thick set AMI packets. My wife and I both work. We don't work from home. Neither of us get paid when we take time off. We don't get snow days, and frankly, this new policy idea is just one more boulder in an avalanche that has nearly crushed us this year. I ask myself similar questions when I have to leave work early for early release or take off entire Fridays for declared admin or personal development days. I attended K-12 in the Washington Missouri School District. We started school after Labor Day, and we were finished by the first or second week of May. We rarely had a snow day. In fact, on many occasions, we were just forced to change bus stops when there was inclement weather and the school went to snow routes. Our teachers took care of their personal development on their own time, and I suppose they figure out how to conduct all their admin during their planning period. Somehow I feel like I still got a 5-star education, had a lot longer summer vacation, managed to get a 30 on the ACT, and was accepted into college and departed with a bachelor's degree in finance. Our kids need more time at school. As much as I love them, I am not the best teacher for them. My workday time is best spent at work, making money so I can pay taxes for a quality education. Let's get back to basics and take a second look at these policies that rob time from students who should be spending more of the school year, not less in school. Next one is from Sherry Boren, Strawberry Hill Estates Drive, O'Fallon. Sherry writes, I would like the board to address the varying different late work policies and how they vary so differently from each middle school, each grade level, each subject, each team, and each teacher. They are inconsistent and confusing for students and parents to assess and check that student work is being completed. Each school's expectation, each teacher's expectation, grade level, and subject area all use the policies differently, as well as the learning management systems. This year is different for all teachers and students, and we should consider giving grace this year and consistency moving forward. While some teachers do give grace, some are not. Each teacher can make any late policy they deem. Some teachers are allowing students to make up all the work to allow them to cover the objectives, where other teachers after 5 days allow no makeup work and time-stamp late work according to when the class ends. Some put zeros in and allow for no mastery of objectives. This gives the failing student no reason to keep trying. Some points deducted for work being late seems reasonable. Zeros and no mastery of learning objectives hurt students on unit tests and mastering new material to be lifelong learners. This needs to be addressed in general and especially this year with the new learning management system, high number of zeros and high levels of stress for students this year. Tina Court Camp, Keystone Ridge Drive in O'Fallon. Tina writes, my comments is in regard to the AMI days and lack of consistency from building to building. My daughter attends Fort Zumwalt North and has until a set time on the AMI day to turn in assignments prior to being marked absent. Yet in our other high schools, students are getting a full week to submit assignments. Specific communication need to be given to all building administrators and work is to be turned in by students in order for the students to not be marked absent. It needs to be the same in all 4 comprehensive high schools. Caitlin Shin, El Perro, St. Peter's. Can we please talk about the amount of time that is given for lower elementary recess, lunch, and instruction? These kids are gone for so long during the day, often a bus ride that is 45 minutes, and they are getting 7 minutes on the playground after recess and then a short second recess. There are several journals, documents, and education notes stating that more play is beneficial to young minds to retain information and growth. Please explain why there's almost no time given. Ann Bingham, Gary Glenn Drive, St. Peter's. My name is Ann Bingham. I am the parent of 2 graduates of the Fort Zumwalt School District and a board member of Find the Light Foundation. I'm also a developmental psychologist and a 30-year veteran in education. As adults, we want nothing more than our kids to talk to us. In recent weeks, students from the Rockwood School District conducted a survey that showed 852 high school students, 550 had considered taking their own lives. 65%, that's 2/3. Consider that. One of the things that we know about the ongoing pandemic that we're faced with is that it's having dire mental health consequences for all of us, and that our teens and young adults are facing the brunt of that. And this has been well documented. Our kids are begging for help. They're telling you what they need, and the Board of Education, tasked with their education and care, is reluctant to recognize them as the vital stakeholders that they are. Our district needs an objective mental health needs assessment that includes the input of our students to guide our decision making. In closing, I will bring to your attention that the Find the Light Foundation emerged because of the deaths of over 80 students in our district due to suicide and overdose. Those are kids that we've lost, the kids that stopped talking. It's your job to listen to the ones that are still here. We look forward to working with you to improve opportunities to have our students' voices heard. And Bridget Allen of Bellmead Drive in St. Peter's. I would like to start with requesting an immediate change to the AMI packets. Please do the choice board that we all had last Thursday, every day. It was so much less stressful and parents were able to make that work any level that their kids are at. The AMI packets are not designed for kids on an IEP, and while the SPED teams have supplemented, it would be easier on everyone to just switch to the choice board. More important request, I would like to see the dyslexia interventions revisited and training on these programs to increase. Our dyslexic students need evidence-based interventions with extensive training and programs that are recognized by the IDEA and to be taught by teachers with certifications recognized by IDEA. Parents are having to fight to get the basic things that kids need or having to pay thousands and thousands of dollars out of pocket to make up for where the district is lacking. Please revisit this, call on the parents of the district with dyslexic children and get our input. Let us help. Thank you very much. So those are the ones that we had that came in from online. We have 2 here tonight to speak. If I could call on Megan Bruce, teacher at South High School.
Hello, I am a business and marketing teacher at South High, and I teach multiple semester courses. I am here tonight to ask the school board to not accept the new school board calendars due to the unbalanced schedules or semesters. I am the first to admit that I made the mistake of not voting for even semesters as my top priority when the survey came out from FZSD. I made the mistake of assuming the difference would be within 5 days and now know differently. The calendar for the 21-22 school year has a 17-day difference between semesters. And the 22-23 calendar has a 15-day difference. This difference will impact all of our high school students' learning. Just last Wednesday was the 17th day of our current semester. In my courses now, we are already on our second unit of learning. So consider all of the learning that takes place in 17 days. I agree that if these unbalanced calendars are approved, that teachers will adjust the delivery of instruction to meet the new deadlines. However, even though the same amount of curriculum is covered, this does not mean the same amount of learning has taken place for our students. Most likely, teachers will have to cut out unit projects. This is often when I see students apply and truly develop a deeper understanding for the skills they have learned. I agree that if the unbalanced calendars are approved, that it is more convenient to end the semester before the holiday break. I too had anxiety this year coming back from winter break for the first time ever and giving reviews and then giving finals. However, I was actually surprised at how well it went. I also understand that students had a high degree of stress for finals this year. I believe, though, part of the stress was due to students being absent from class due to quarantine throughout the semester. And now with our new modified quarantine, I wonder if the stress level will be less in the future. And I also wonder if students will be less stressed about taking finals after winter break if it becomes the norm. My argument is that student learning is more important than convenience, and that as they become more familiar with the practice of taking finals after winter break, their stress levels will be lower. I would love to have finals before winter break, but not at the cost of 17 days of learning. If we want the convenience of finals before winter break, we need to change the state law instead of sacrificing student learning. Please help us correct this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Megan.
You good?
Rebecca Schwessig? I apologize if that's not right.
That's okay, it was very close.
Help me, what is it?
It's Rebecca Schweze.
Swayze.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Most people don't even come that close to it.
Well, you know my name, so.
I'm-
Also a teacher at South High.
Yeah, I'm also a teacher at South High School, and I'm here representing many of the more than 35 teachers at our school that teach semester-long classes, and whose students will be negatively impacted by our proposed calendars. So, like Megan said, we'll have 17 more days next year in our second semester classes than first semester, and in the next year we'll have 15 more days. So we cannot effectively teach a course whose curriculum was written for a full semester in this time span. It means that some content just won't get taught. Our first semester students will absolutely not be getting the same educational experience as our second semester students. You may not have a lot of concern that our art students will miss out on projects. I'm an art teacher. But there are over 75 single subject courses that are taught at the high school in every single subject except for math. So some examples. In science, physical science is actually listed as a full year class, but it's made up of one semester of chemistry and one semester of physics. Earth science, geology, zoology, and environmental science are all single semester classes. In the English department, creative writing students would lose 2 major writing projects and assessments. This is information that's been given to me by various teachers in these departments. As would Shakespeare, speech, and intro to leadership. ACT prep would lose a whole unit of either English, reading, math, or science, or each one of those would have to be shorted. Pathways to teaching, which is a college credit class, would somehow need to figure out how to fit everything from the required curriculum into this significantly shorter time span. In the business department, which Megan spoke about, AP Economics is listed as a full year class, but it is actually a semester of microeconomics and a semester of macroeconomics. So students who will take this will have a difficult time passing the College Board exam if they aren't able to cover all the first semester material. Personal finance is also in the business department. It's required by the state. So how will we cover the material for that class in that same amount of time? If you talk about the practical arts department, there are over 24 single semester classes just in that department alone that are single semester classes that will not have the same experience for students that are taught first semester versus second semester. I think that the calendar committee did not have any high school teachers that teach semester-long classes present, so they didn't think about the significance of the unbalanced schedules. They used the results of a survey that indicated that the majority of teachers just didn't care one way or the other about the balanced versus imbalanced semesters. So they offered us two options to choose from, one balanced and one unbalanced. Because the majority of teachers are not affected by this issue, they chose the calendar they wanted based on other factors. Probably returning to school after Memorial Day or not returning to school after Memorial Day, which if nothing else affected you among the two calendars, you might pick on personal preference on something like that. My assertion is that balancing the semester should have been a non-negotiable, like the number of contract hours or the amount of PD days we have, or the days that we start on, so that both calendar options that were given to us to vote on should have been balanced. The mere fact that the majority of teachers are not affected by this has no relation to the amount of impact on student learning it will have to the hundreds of students who are affected. My request is that you elect not to approve these calendars, but send it back to the FZEA to come up with new options that all include balanced semesters and put student learning above teachers' personal preferences.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is recognition. Dr. DeBray.
We're up to that. Okay, very good. This is one of the few times you'll see me without a tie, but I shoveled a few sidewalks this morning, and it's been a long day driving roads, trying to see what the conditions are going to bring tomorrow. But I do really enjoy this time of the year. The governor of the state of Missouri has declared School Board Recognition Week to be the 14th through the 20th. And so that's what we're here for this, to recognize you. I have a proclamation signed by our governor, Mike Parsons, and it says, whereas a system of quality public education is essential to the future of our state and nation, and whereas the people of Missouri have a long tradition of support for public education and their local school districts, and whereas local school boards are the ultimate expression of the unique American institution of representative governance of public school districts, and whereas local school boards, acting on behalf of and in close connection with the people of their communities, chart the direction of education in their communities, and whereas local school boards serve as the key community advocate for children, youth, and the public schools. Now, therefore, I, Michael L. Parson, Governor of the state of Missouri, do hereby proclaim February 14th through the 20th, 2021 to be School Board Recognition Week in Missouri, and urge all Missourians to recognize school boards as they strive with their communities to improve our public schools through quality leadership. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the state of Missouri in the city of Jefferson, this 28th day of December, 2020. So how about a nice hand for the school board? I always take a minute and tell our audience about school boards. School boards in Missouri are 7-member boards. They've been 7 members since about 1995. Before that, they were 6-member boards. They're volunteers. They don't receive any remuneration for their service. They are elected at large, which means they don't represent a particular area of the school district. They represent all children in the school district, and they're elected in a nonpartisan fashion, which means they don't represent a political party. So I have been superintendent since 1985. So over the years, I've had numerous hundreds of school board members that I've worked with, and combinations in school boards. And it's never easy. This year is probably a classic example of taking on issues that you didn't count on. I've never seen anything like it. I know these guys have never seen anything like it, yet we try to do the best we can and serve the children and the staff in the Fort Zumwalt School District as best we can. Sometimes that's hard to see, but I promise you that's our ultimate goal. Do what's good for the kids and the staff in the school district. So with that said, I'd like to invite the board down. We have a little memento that we would like to give you from the Missouri School Boards Association. So come on down, if you would. Help me with this. hand them out?
No, I'll have them out. Just hang those up for me. Come on out in front, guys. Erica.
Thank you.
It's from the Missouri School Board. It's John.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, sir. There you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tom.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Greg. Thank you. Swearingen. You've had a number of these.
Thank you, sir.
Well, where they're piling up. Tommy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a picture?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
More steps that way.
Most of the guys?
Thank you.
Tommy, wanna move on down?
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, guys. Next item we would like to move into is something that Laura really spent a lot of time on with this pandemic. She got really excited here about a month ago about a 100-day celebration. And, you know, that happens every year at our elementary level. Doesn't happen too much that I'm aware of at the middle school or the high school level, but it's a big deal to elementary kids. And this year, she wanted to try to make it more for the entire school district. So all the buildings were planning on celebrations of 100 days. This is the 100th day. We're not in school, but when we do come back, whenever that is, those celebrations that they were planning for today will take place. So we wanted to just start, because we have a number of proclamations I want to give the board. We want to start with a little video that Progress South did. This is their gift to you for Board Appreciation Week, but it also is a nice way to kick off the 100-day celebration. JB, can you handle that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's just one of the buildings out there, and they thought it would be kind of neat to do something with their students as opposed to put something at your places. So that's their gift. Over the last couple of months, I've written Senator Roy Blunt, and I've copied you guys so that as the senator had the opportunity to help with stimulus funds for schools, I was encouraging him to do that. Whether, it's hard to say how much of a hand he's had in that, but the stimulus funds are starting to flow. So tonight, as part of our 100th day celebration, Jennifer Myers from Senator Blunt's office is here. Jennifer, you want to come forward?
Thank you. Like Dr. DeBray said, I'm Jennifer Meyer. I'm a field representative for Senator Roy Blunt. Thank you for letting me take a minute to share a letter from the senator. As one of the only former teachers in the Senate, he prides himself on that and always wants to recognize when such an accomplishment as this. So he's, dear friends, it is my pleasure to congratulate you on the successful completion of 100 days of school in person and online. I commend the parents, administration, teachers, staff, and students for working together to ensure the school year will be able to move forward. As a father of four and a former teacher, I know the importance of students having access to their teachers and classmates. The school year has been challenging, but thanks to the commitment of the leaders and teachers in your school district, students had the opportunity to continue their education. Last year, as chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee on Labor, Health and Human Services, Education, and related agencies, I worked with the members of the committee and to prioritize funding to assist schools to open safely. Congress included $67.5 billion in funding to help to get K through 12 students back to school safely. Fort Zumwalt made sure their school would be ready to open and their teachers and students to focus on learning and to meet this 100-day threshold. Congratulations again and best wishes for their school year, Senator Roy Blunt. Great.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Please thank the senator for us.
I will.
As part of our celebration, we have the cities of O'Fallon and the city of St. Peter's both passed proclamations celebrating the first 100 days of school at Fort Zumwalt, and the county of St. Charles at their county council meeting. I went to that meeting and received it, and I think I said in one of my updates, it was so impressive what they said about the school district. They really are impressed that we came back and that we made it happen. The AMI days, the last couple of days, certainly have kind of taken the luster off of it, but we'll be back and we'll get through the year. But we've got through a whole 100 days and a full semester. Our kids are doing well in school. I'm in the schools every day. Our teachers are doing well with our students. And I just think it is so obvious that we did the right thing by getting these kids back to school. It's just very obvious. And that's what the cities and the county wanted to say to you. They appreciate what the board has done to make this all happen. So we'll get those, we'll get them mounted somewhere, but I think it's really a nice gesture on the part of our cities and county with our school district. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Very, very nice. Okay, moving along then with the consent agenda, along with the addendums that you have before you tonight. I need a motion to approve so we can move forward. George, second. Callahan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Financial reports, Mr. Orr, if you don't mind.
Good evening, members of the board. I direct your attention to the financial summary, which pulls together the financial statement, investment schedule, revenue report, expenditure report, all those good reports out there. Fund balances for January totaled $123,005,803.14. Of that balance, $30.9 million was reserved for debt service, 9.1 reserved for capital projects, leaving 83 million for operations. As shown on the investment schedule, we had roughly 79 million invested at month end, with 16.1 million for debt service, 9.1 for bond proceeds, and 53.8 million in operating funds. Revenues for the month of January totaled $55,987,795.02. This is probably our second largest month that we have during the years, because we get a large share of our tax revenue in December, and we get the balance of our current revenue basically in January. So that's why it was so high. This total was comprised of 43.8 million in local revenue, 11.2 million in state revenue, and 1.1 million in federal revenue. Year-to-date revenues are running about 1.8 million more than last year at this time. Local revenues are 1.9 million less in total, driven by a large loss in our food service program because we're not collecting that money from students right now. And but anyway, it's 2.2 million loss in our food service receipts, 0.8 million in interest earnings, because as you guys know, we've reported before, the interest rates are way down, and 1.4 million loss in student activities because we're just not generating that through those activities that we normally would. This was partially offset by 3.1 million more in tax collections. State revenues are skewed at this point, due partially to a timing difference of 2.1 million in early childhood payment that we received this year in January. So we received it a month sooner. I think it was in January. I think we received our first large payment for early childhood special ed in February last year, and we got it in January this year. So it skewed it and makes it look higher when we all know that the state cut basic formula and some transportation funding. So that's in overall, we did see that shortfall, but like I said, it's a timing difference, skewed a little bit by the early childhood special ed. Federal revenues are running ahead by 3.3 million more than last year. This is attributed to 1.9 million for the CARES Act and 1.4 million for reimbursement for student meals. And that's kind of the offset piece, at 1.4 million for student meals through federal reimbursement versus collecting that full price from the kids or the reduced price from those reduced price meal kids. Monthly expenses for January totaled $22,032,212.13. For the month of January, the district spent 17.1 million on salaries and benefits, 3.4 million on purchase services, 1.1 million on supplies, and $0.5 million on capital and construction. Compared to last year at the same time, expenses are down about 7.9 million. Of course, the bulk of that reduction is related to 6.2 million less in bond financed capital expenditures. Also, the remaining decrease is kind of spread out across all categories. It's not really one particular area, so to speak, that you would point at for another large reason for a large reduction. There are some fluctuations within our expenses, I would say. So as we kind of talked about in some previous reports, certified salaries are up about 2.1%, or almost $1 million, but that's entirely offset by support staff vacancies, which are down by $1 million. So these vacancies are also driving down benefit costs, which our benefit costs overall are down about $571,000. That's mainly in our insurance line items. Purchase service costs are down by around a net $580,000, and driven by reductions in travel, reductions in contract transportation, and in student activity expenditures. So there is an offset to the reduction that we had that I talked about in the revenues for student activities. There's also an offsetting reduction in student activity expenses as well. Supply costs are also down by another $272,000 in total, and that's driven mainly by less usage in food items for our student nutrition program, less electricity, and less bus fuel. We have fewer routes being run right now. I do need to point out, and that could partially be a little skewed, some of that, because as you guys are also aware, we delayed the start of school a couple of weeks. Some of these will catch up a little bit as we move on. Sorry. I do need to point out the custodial department. They just submitted a budget request saying that they're going to need about another $570,000 to get through the rest of the year for cleaning, disinfecting supplies and materials, all due to COVID. They're also as we would expect, the kids are washing their hands more, they're using more paper towels. So not only do we need more supplies just for cleaning and disinfecting, but the kids are, and the staff and kids are using more supplies as we would expect to keep themselves safe. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's my financial report.
Any questions for Mr. Orr regarding the financial report?
Last month we were at 10.7. How are we looking now?
Well, there's $500,000 here, and I think there's a few other offsets that'll be coming here and there. With the 4.8 million we should get in stimulus, we have to wait for the state to appropriate the money so that they can release it. I know they're moving forward with, they have the budget set up online, so we need to go through and submit those numbers, and then they said we can start submitting reimbursement requests. So I'm hoping in the next month to have all that completed by the end of February. Now, like I said, when they get around to appropriating the money and then making those funds available, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm hoping that should push us over the 12% mark. I mean, that's kind of where we're on target with now, is with, because I think it was going to be, we needed about 3.5 to 4-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some, I have to be hesitant because, I don't have a crystal ball to see, like I wasn't expecting this $500,000 hit for additional cleaning and disinfecting supplies, but I'm also seeing that food service revenue's down a little farther than I made cuts for it in December, so there may be some additional cuts on the revenue side, but if all goes well, we might be pushed over the 12% with the stimulus money.
When would we receive that money?
We're not sure.
When do we
like I
think we
said,
would receive it?
I'm thinking we might get it sometime in March, maybe. I'm hopeful, crossing my fingers, but like I said, until the legislature actually takes it up and appropriates it and makes it available for release, I have no way of knowing that.
But no reason to believe that we won't receive it.
No, I don't have any reason to believe we wouldn't. We're gonna do everything on our side to make sure that we've done everything we need to do to make sure we get it, but until the legislature takes it up, I can't say for sure.
But we're gonna have to request it because the way that is structured, it can be requested over up to 3 years. So we're gonna have to request it to get it in before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
But we can use it on existing expenditures. We don't have to have new expenditures for that, so I think we'll be able to request that money.
We think that's gonna put us over 12, but if it doesn't put us over 12, it's gonna be
It'll be
awfully
close.
right?
It'll be close.
Okay, and so how does that work? And Bernie might be able to answer this. The language that's in the salary agreement, is it just, if it goes over 12%, it's automatically triggered, the freeze is moved, and we do a step automatically?
Yes.
Okay. So anything short of that?
Short of that, I would have to recommend that the board make an exception to the contingency language, which I have done before. We've had other times that we've gotten really close to the contingency language, and it was close enough that I could recommend that to the board, and the board's always approved it. So, I think it looks good. The one thing you have to keep in mind, and this won't change anything, but that's one-time money. That's 4.8 million, but we don't get so if you use the 4.8 million in salaries, then the next year you gotta have the 4.8 million again. So that's why it was so important that the state give us that money that they withheld. Now, I understand the governor has recommended in his state of the state that they put the money, not that money they withheld, but to fully fund the formula for this next year's budget. So that's good. But the withholding money is recurring every year. That makes more sense. So, we'll just have to see when we get everything, but I think it looks good right now that that's gonna happen.
Have you heard if there's more money coming down in the talks, like the new package they're working on, there's talks in there, there's a lot of money for the schools?
I have heard that there's more money, and it looked like it would be targeted for reopening, schools reopening.
Will we be able to get any of that, because we did open and we spent, and all these costs and things we had to do, will we be able to get any of that retroactive?
I think we will, but I don't know that it'll be for salaries. Right now, this ESSERS 2 money, we've got a lot of freedom as to how we use it. I think this next package, there'll be more strings as to how we use it. But I think it looks good.
So if it comes in close, I mean, I'm assuming the recommendation is gonna be that we would remove that freeze. Is there any reason to wait?
Well, I mean, they have to appropriate the money. The legislature has to appropriate it. So I think once they appropriate it, we can make a recommendation. But until they appropriate it, there's no guarantee it's gonna be coming.
Is there any word on when they're supposed to do that?
I thought I'm aware.
The legislature sometimes moves really slowly.
They don't have to put like on the books, you know, like what they're.
They have to make it by May 15th, which is the end of the legislative session.
Desi just opened the budget up and just gave us some information last week, so.
We'll get information back to you as soon as we know something. I know you guys are gonna wanna know about it, so as soon as we know something.
When we have the tax increase on the horizon also.
We do.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, I think it's really beneficial, and, you know, it's interesting that it's doing on the same day that we're doing the recognition for the 100 days this year, right? But the conversation tied to the idea that so long as the legislature appropriates this money, kind of looking around, I don't see any reason why the freeze isn't gonna be lifted. I think that's good news, right?
Right.
It'd be good for morale.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I have one question. The 4.8 million that's coming, was that federal money passed down to the state that the state is now finally releasing?
Yes.
Okay. But that's not money that the state already withheld from us, correct?
It is not.
So what is are we considering that the feds are making up for the shortfall of the state? Or are we still doing anything, or do we still look at it that the state owes us money?
Interestingly enough, the legislature has not even mentioned that, the money that they withheld. They withheld 7 million. We got about 2 million back through some CARES money. So there's
Federal money back, correct?
correct. Yeah, we didn't get what the state withheld back. And they may take a look at the fact that we're getting 4.8 in federal money and hey, let's call it good. They're ahead and we go on with a new budget. So it's hard to say, but they have not talked about leaving that withholds go to come back to the schools. That's a problem.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring that up,
Yeah.
that although we're getting this 4.8 million, that's federal money filtering down to the state that up till recently, we didn't even know if they were actually going to pay us anything.
We did
correct?
not. That's correct.
Correct. So there's still a big chunk of that hanging out there that I'm really disappointed in our state for not coming in and helping out and making good on their commitment. I know they've taken a hit through this as well, but public education is a part of what we're doing and a part of what they have promised to do. And just wanted everybody to understand that flow down and that we're still missing a chunk of money here.
Yeah.
And we're still money out of our own pockets that are not being made up, so.
That's right.
Did they give you an answer? I mean, I know you communicate with different people there, but did they give you any answer when you asked them about
They
it?
do not. No, and our MSBA and MASA, which is the School Administrators Organization, their lobbyists are up there all the time and they just are not saying anything about it. Like I said, they may very well think, well, we got this federal money that we're passing along, so we're good to go, and we've saved this money, and, now we'll try to fully fund the formula from here on. It's not good.
Right.
They've been doing this for a while with the withholdings,
Yeah, but this year was not the year to do
not
it
the first time.
at all.
Any other questions for Mr. Orr regarding the report? If not, I need a motion to accept the financial reports as presented.
Howard.
Second, please. McCormick? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Old business. Recommendations for the PC refresh. Mr. Meddy.
Good evening. Thank you for having me again this evening.
As we discussed back in December, I recommended a replacement of devices for us for this coming summer. I wanted to get ahead of the game a little bit due to shipping timelines and different things that we're seeing in the industry. So I still feel that it was good for us to get started early in order to get best pricing and shipping timetables kind of locked in before a lot of other districts get us there. So with that being said, we put it out for open bid. That went out to all known vendors out on our public website. Every way possible to get as many bids in as we could. We had 4 vendors that replied to our bid response in 4 different categories: desktops, laptops with docking stations, and Chromebooks. So I have detailed for you the totals for each of those categories based on the quantities that we discussed back in December. I will mention that back then I gave an estimate of a little over $2.2 million for the total project. With working with these vendors, we are looking at the low-cost bids in each of these categories. That brings us a little under $2 million. So we were able to save a little bit based on what we've looked at in previous years. So I'm happy to answer any questions around details and specifics on these. I don't know if you would like to go through one at a time, line item wise, but I'm happy to answer anything that I can.
Any questions for Mr. Meddy? I would like to go through these one line at a time.
All right.
If you could, please.
All right, first item is desktop. This is desktops that are going to be used for replacements in our high school math and business labs, our lab at our PASS facility, along with support staff devices in the Early Childhood Center. Low-cost provider, and we've verified met all specifications and bid requirements, goes to Lenovo. Lenovo Public Sales for a total cost of $374,440. That's a per unit cost of $740 if you're interested in that. One note on these, on all of our Windows desktops, we're going with AMD Ryzen chips, considerably lower cost. We've tested them for several years in district to try to determine if they're going to work for us. They've been fantastic devices. So it's a great way to save a few dollars, but still get the performance that we're expecting out of them.
Is that the
Sorry
only
to interrupt
difference?
you.
fine.
Which document are we looking at here?
It should be, we've got 2 documents. I've got a recommendation, which is the document.
I'm clicking on the link and it's showing me like 6 different PDFs. Is anybody else getting that?
Should be
Yeah,
the
I'd look at the first.
first one after
Bid
the memo.
evaluation.
The very last one down at the bottom would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
So on the bid evaluation worksheet, you got vendor 1 and vendor 2, both Lenovo Public Sector Sales.
Yep, so where we have that, it was actually the same vendor that provided 2 bids, one primary, one alternate, to meet the bid specifications.
I understand.
So
And the only difference between those two is the chip going from Intel to.
everything else is identical. Memory, hard drive, monitor, all of it's exactly the same between the 2.
Oh, that big a difference, huh?
It is surprising,
Okay.
yeah, how much of a difference.
So you're going with the AMD.
The AMD Ryzen chip, yeah,
Okay.
that is correct.
All right, so I need a motion then to accept the recommendation for Lenovo Public Sector Sales. This is for the Lenovo.
It's just as powerful as the Intel model. So again, we have Lenovo Public Sales coming in at the lowest cost. They did provide 2 bids. Again, we're looking at the AMD option here. Total cost of $686 per device and $144.60 for the total cost on this line item.
Okay, this is for 210 laptops.
Correct.
Need a motion to approve Lenovo Public Sector Sales for the amount of $144,060. More, second.
Calvin.
I'm sorry, McCormick. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Category 3, laptops with docking stations. This is certified staff devices, so teachers in our high schools. Their current devices are aged out. We need to replace those. We also were looking for specifications that would help us perform better during distance learning. So more memory here, more hard drive space, those kind of things to help on that front. Again, AMD Ryzen 7 chip. Very quality device. We've done some demos on those here and they've been fantastic. So total of 600 devices with the docking stations, unit cost of $861, total cost of $516,600 for this one.
All right, so this is the laptop with dock, 600 units.
Correct.
Total price $516,600. Need a motion to approve the recommendation? Powers, second. Callahan,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And next item?
All right, final item is Chromebooks. These are 100% student use devices. This is to continue our one-to-one program in the 6th and 9th grade levels. We are hoping this year to wrap around those coming out of service in the 8th grade down to our 5th grade students. We are piloting right now in 2 of our elementary schools to determine the feasibility of that. If we're able to move forward here, we can sustain that feasibility down at the 5th grade level and use that 4th year on those devices in a positive format. With that being said, we are looking at the Dell 3100. This is the same device we've used for the past several years. It's performed quite well for us. It's a touchscreen device. They came in with the lowest bid and they can guarantee shipping for us in June. So that's really kind of our biggest question mark out there. For us this year, that is a total of 2,745 devices. We have a total cost of $965,471.40. That unit cost is $351.72.
Okay. And just for clarification, does that also include that Google administration fee and the?
It does.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, 2,745 total units of the Chromebook for an amount of $965,471.40. I need a motion to approve the recommendation. George, second. Powers, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Meddy, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, facility planning, Dr. DeBrey, you and Lisa probably.
Yeah. Well, Lisa's here with us this evening, so I'm gonna let her to address the couple of bids that we had. Lisa?
Yes, we did have some bids last month. The first one in your packet was the lawn mowing bids for the district. Due to some incorrect information in the bidding documents, I would like to recommend to reject all the bids and to rebid this and bring a recommendation in March.
All right. Any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the rejection of all bids regarding the lawn mowing, and we'll bring this back. We'll reissue the bid request. Callahan, second, please. Powers, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you. The second memo that was in your packet was for the trash and recycling services. We put that out to bid on January 28th. We received 4 bids. The low bidder was Allied Services, which is Republic Services. That's who we've been using over the past few years. Their bid came in at $104,098.66, and that is a 3-year contract with them at that price. So I'd like to recommend awarding a contract to them for 3 years.
So if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, we tabled this last month because they were going to come with us with a straight line bid, and we weren't going out for bids, but we did, and they're still the low bidder.
Correct.
Has this price changed from what they had originally offered in January?
I'd have to look back at my notes. I think it is a little bit more, but to be honest, I'd have to go back and check to see what it was. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay. Would you please provide that, just interest, I guess, on my part, that.
I thought the recycling was just
A little bit less than what they were asking, but I think they might have raised the trash just a little bit, so I think it kind of evened it out, but I'd have to go back.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just shoot an email or send it through Tammy, that'd be great. I need a motion then to approve the recommendation for the
I got a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Aspen Waste Systems, can you help me understand the price discrepancy there?
Yes, what they did on the bid form, they gave us a per month price,
Okay.
and we had asked for a yearly price, so you'd have to take those totals and multiply it by 12. So that was a technical error on their part, but they're still not the low bidder then.
Why is it hard? Okay, yes, sir.
Send that email to everybody on the board. or
Yeah,
who's-
Tammy, once you get that from Lisa, go ahead and send it to everybody, please.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the request for low bidder Allied Services, doing business as Republic Services, to be our trash and recycle pickup service for $104,098.66 per year for the next 3 years.
McCormick.
McCormick, second George. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Time for new business. Dr. DeBrey, take us home.
Alrighty, for
Bingley's, we don't own the bus at the end, and we can turn them in at any time if we don't need them. Or if we get a limit, we could just say, here you go, take this back, and we'll get something else. So we kind of have to renew these 1 year at a time. So that's why I'm asking. And then we do have a handful of capital leases too, which we will own those at the end. But
So is this kind of a recommendation to
just renew all the current leases with Central States that we have.
without picking up any additional or replacing any?
Not replacing any, not picking up any additional.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Do you have any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
More.
More, second.
Powers.
Powers, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item, please.
Thank you. Next item is the extended school year recommendation that Laura Smith will handle.
Thank you. Good evening. The recommendation that you have in your packet tonight is for extended school year. So that's special education services that we are required to offer during the summertime to assist students who would regress during a break such as summer and be unable to recoup that loss when school resumes and instruction resumes. So the recommendation that's been made is similar to the ESY programs that have occurred in the past. We do anticipate returning to in-person learning this summer for those students who are able to attend. And so that is outlined in your memo. It will take place at New Rivers Elementary for kindergarten through 12th grade students, at the Early Childhood Center for those students, and Mike Clemens Center will host their own students at the Mike Clemens Center. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Dr. Smith?
I would ask that you approve as proposed.
So I need a motion then to approve the extended school year plan that has been presented this evening.
Powers.
Powers, second.
Callahan.
Callahan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, man.
Very good. Our summer school, regular summer school program, Jen has a recommendation for that.
Thank you, Dr. DeBrey. We too are hoping to get back on track with summer school this year. We'll be offering summer school at all 3 levels. High school will follow the traditional program that we've done in the past, where we do some credit recovery for students who have failed courses during the school year. We give them a chance to make those credits up. And there will also be some credit attainment. 2 seated programs. We'll do our traditional reading program that we've done every year except for last year. And then we're also excited, we're gonna start our STEAM camps again, which are typically very, very popular with our kids. We did change STEM to STEAM last year, so we are busy right now adding in some art components to all of those camps to try to really attract all of our kids. So those programs will take place at Mount Hope, Lewis and Clark, Pheasant Point, and Rock Creek. And we really want to engage as many students as we can, and we will have a very full virtual program as well, where students will have a lot of choices, and the choices will vary kind of as much as a kid wants to, participate, or as little. So there'll be a little bit of both, but we really hope we can keep a lot of kids engaged over the summer. We will also be providing Chromebooks for students who need them, as we have in the past. As well as our hotspots that I think we have about 150 of at this point. So those will be available to families as well. And that's kind of sums it up. The calendars are in there, but we're really hoping for a whole summer of programming for students, so there are a lot of opportunities.
Seems to be very comprehensive, so it should be hopefully very successful.
I hope it is, yep.
What grades are you doing the STEAM camps?
2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So it'll be rising 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
So 5th graders going into 6th grade?
They can go into the 6th grade. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Mr. Callahan?
Yep. Will this program be available to parents who feel that keeping their kids at home and with the disruption due to the virus, they'll be able to avail themselves of an opportunity to to recover that deficiencies that they perceive?
Absolutely.
Very
Yep.
good. Thank you,
And
ma'am.
we're even talking about, if we have families who feel that way, we're going to really tailor some programs for kids. So we'll make sure that our principals are very well versed. So they know all the opportunities and can really, we really want kids to be engaged this summer. So we're going to work at it really hard.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great.
I have a question. Do you know, so you said some of them are going to be seated programs, right, where they're going to be attending school?
Right.
And so they'll have a traditional classroom, I guess, with a teacher, and then you have some that are launch programs, correct?
Right.
Do you have an idea of the cost that's associated with the summer school program?
I do.
Anticipating through launch?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. It will work out in our favor. Yeah, traditionally, we do well during summer school.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve the summer school recommendation as presented for the summer of 2021.
Move to approve it, Callahan.
Callahan, second please. Powers, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Last item under new business is to recommend the 21, 22, and 22, 23 school calendars to the board. We had a board committee that Paul Myers chaired, and the FCEA had a committee that Karen Parker was the chairperson. She's a high school math teacher at North High School. And they worked out versions and presented those to the staff, certified staff that are members of FCEA. And the vote was, I think it was 63% for 21, 22 and 68% for 22, 23. But the versions that you have in your agenda, they are the unbalanced versions. It's not the first time we've had unbalanced versions. In fact, there's more years than not, they've been unbalanced because it was important for people to finish before Christmas break. So that's the reasoning. Teachers have approved it, and the next step is to bring it back to you and recommend it to you, and that's what I'm doing now.
I'm sure there are questions, or no questions?
I guess questions, like, I've talked with a number of teachers now on both sides. The thing that I keep coming back to, and then even with the conversations that Paul and I've had, I can't overcome is the discrepancy in the ability or the learning from the first semester to the second semester. The 15 days or the 17 days, the 20 to 22% decrease that is for those kids. I can't overcome that. I really struggle with that, and I see that as one of those things that should be a non-negotiable once we go into those negotiations. I didn't know these numbers. Maybe I missed it as far as the 63% pass. But now we're talking about a pretty major impact to students and not an overwhelming majority of teachers who even supported it. To me, this is something that we have to kick back and ask the team to go and look at this again and come back with something that's closer and more aligned with presenting that quality education on both halves of the year. So not really a question, I guess, but a statement.
I agree, and I think there weren't a huge amount of teachers that voted. So we have a percentage, but I think it was only like 500 or 400 and something teachers, wasn't it, that actually voted?
I hadn't heard the numbers. Did you
So-
hear any numbers, Paul?
I mean,
I can see what
when you look at that, that's an important number to have too, but I just really have a concern that there's no way, and to put this on to teachers to try and make this up, or even on Jen's group to try and make that amount of time up, it's not in the best interest of the kids. And I've always been a fan of finishing before the semester's over, because I get that. But I also feel that now how things are set up, we've got to look at this and what's best for them. And if that means they come back for 2 weeks and they use that time to study, and even that time they're off, that they can use it to work. And so if you've got college credits, there's just so much, and I think we can do better. And I think we need to ask them to rework the calendar and send it back. That's honestly my opinion on this, and I feel very strongly about it.
I would just have to say, as a parent of my last high schooler coming up, she's a senior this year, it's always been in the past where her past 3 years where it's ended at Christmas break. And this year, because of COVID and everything else, they had to kind of switch and do finals after the Christmas break. And yes, she was kicking and screaming about it a little bit, but overall, it worked out fine. And I think it did, the part I've always missed, and I've been on one other calendar committee, is that piece that you just said, when, yes, we look at it as a hard break, but because it's such an amount of time off, but if you do have the finals after break, it does give them something to have to be back engaged with, right? That they're not cutting it off, that they maybe can use that time for studying. And I think when we talk about the time off, I think it does need to be more balanced, especially when you talk about those semester classes. The other thought I had is, I know not all the teachers that we have belong to the FZEA, right? Do we survey the teachers who aren't? Like, is our survey all the teachers, or is it just the FZEA teachers?
It's pretty much up to FZEA, how they handle that. I mean, that, once the negotiation is over in calendar, it's up to the FZEA to take it out and present it to their staff and, or to the FZEA members and see what their wishes are. And then they brought it back to us, and every year we take it to the school board based on what we heard from our teachers. So that's the way it's been.
To address that, when you start looking at the calendar and who that impacts, when you look at our staff and our students and their families, you're talking 80,000 people who our calendars impact. There were 433 votes cast.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you gotta look at the content of the votes too, because how many of those teachers teach semester classes? I think that's only a high school thing, isn't it? Well, it's definitely not elementary school.
Right.
And I don't think there's many in middle school, if any, are there? So any of those votes that people cast were probably not looking at the balance of the semesters. They were looking at other factors of the calendar. So, so I don't know. I kind of agree with you guys saying kick it back and see if they can get it at least closer to being balanced. I mean, it's way out right now. So yeah.
Hey, John.
Couple of questions come to mind. We have had unbalanced numbers of days per semester in the past. Our professional staff has been able to put an emphasis on educating, especially the high school group of students. I don't see much of an impact on elementary or middle school. I think the question arises from our high school students, our comprehensive high schools. The consensus of the input to me is that the children have done well because of the, regardless of the unbalanced number of days. And we have an agreement to recognize this union, and that's the vote base that we have to deal with.
Have we ever been that unbalanced, with 17 days?
I think so.
The original 2021 calendar for this year was 15 days unbalanced. That was voted on and approved prior.
Which didn't come to fruition though.
Right. No, I'm just, you know, and I'm not advocating either way, just sharing that point.
Well, but it would have if we hadn't started 2 weeks later than we had planned.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that calendar had been agreed upon.
No, I understand. We did have our professional educators stand in front of us today and say that they can't do it, that the kids will suffer from it. We have agreed that the FZEA is the representing or the negotiating group. We have made no commitment that we were required to accept whatever they put in front of us. We still have different things, and there's any number of things that we would say are simply not a negotiable item.
My kids, I asked both of them before I came here, and they much prefer getting it done before you go on break. I feel that's right, because you want to go home and you want to relax. You don't want to have to worry about studying. I got overachievers. They'll be studying. They won't be just disconnecting like you should. And I think we should go with it. You guys are talking about it's not a majority. Well, it was over 2/3 that voted for it. The state is the one putting the pressure on us, pushing that damn Stark back. And it's all because of the Lake of the Ozarks, so they can have their employees. But
Child labor employees.
yeah. But, we've already gone through it. The teachers will make it happen. I'm good with what we got.
I'm just gonna say, how many times do we have to make the teachers make it happen? That's my problem. We constantly, they have all these things on them, we have to keep saying, they'll make it happen. Jen's group's gonna make it happen. And I'm not okay with that, because for my kids and any of the kids that we all represent, they deserve to have as much of that education as possible. And I have talked to many, many teachers, and I've witnessed it, I've been in it, and it's not giving them the best education we can. And that's what our job is to do, is to give them the best education they can, not keep telling teachers, make it happen. Jen's group, make it happen. That's not our job.
So Jen, or even Dr. Smith, from a student aspect and from a teacher aspect, we had some email campaign from all we've heard from are South High teachers. So something happened there where they got on a campaign. We haven't heard anything from North, East, or West. But from a teacher standpoint, professional development, curriculum, I'd love to hear your opinion, but then I'd also like to hear from a mental standpoint, maybe special ed, student standpoint, if Laura's got an idea or a thought, I'd like to hear from you too. But on this subject, can we kind of pique your brain a little bit?
I was actually on that committee with Paul, and it's something that I think that we discussed several times as far as the inequity. And, just having had some personal experience with teachers who were very concerned about that at the beginning of this year, after we pushed the school year back and we decided to move exams after that, I think there was kind of a sigh of relief. But as far as this year goes, I too have mostly heard from the south side, not so much from the other three buildings, but that doesn't mean that they don't feel that way. And it's a small group that it matters to. It's those teachers who teach those semester courses. Elementary and middle, really, even during that negotiations, I felt like they really didn't have a lot of feelings one way or the other.
I think one thing in the negotiations, and I think to just clarify, I'm saying this to present both sides, is I understand the feedback, and there's feedback as it relates to being more convenient to be out at that break, but also expressed within the committee from teachers is that for some of them, it is important to have those finals beforehand in terms of how they're measuring student performance. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong, and I could not tell you how that relates to a percentage, how many teachers feel strongly that way versus it doesn't matter. That was one other perspective presented in the committee process, is it's more than just it feels good to be out before Christmas and have the finals done. It's important to them from a measurement standpoint, but I don't know how many of them it's that important to.
Well,
is that just a fact?
Is that measurement from a continuity of learning and not having that break? Is that what it's for?
I think that was one factor that was discussed. I think you also got into that idea of students go back, they carry that anxiety, and where does that test performance go when they come back and they're feeling that they're not as prepared. I think you could probably talk to students and get some variation of a 50% threshold that some want it done. Some feel more confident when they take it then, some come back and feel better. And I think you heard a little bit of that tonight too. So I don't know if it was flipped the other way, if you would have teachers tonight talking to you about, hey, it's important to have those finals done because of how it measures. But it was discussed in the committee extensively that there are two sides to this. Even if you extrapolate out elementary, early childhood, and middle school, you still have a core issue there. And not right or wrong, just a difference of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Laura?
I would have to agree with Paul. I think mental health impacts the individual in a very individual way. So as many students as you would line up an interview, I think you'd find as many that needed to be finished before break as you would want the break to be able to study and prepare for it. I don't know that there's a right or wrong as far as that goes, But I do think that we as adults can change the impact that it has on kids by making certain that we look at the calendar and we make certain that we are not putting undue pressure on them anymore one way or the other. So if we skillfully prepare for the presentation for the curriculum for each semester, then I think we lessen the amount of stress that we're putting on kids.
So, novel idea, maybe a really horrible idea, but what would it take to have a semester in before break for elementary, middle, and leave the secondary schools to let them go 2 weeks after they come back? Kind of have split semesters for, let the 2/3 of the district have what they want, and then the other third have what they want. Not to compromise, but it's kind of a compromise. Is that something that's possible?
I think it is. I think it is, that you can have different calendars. It may be, it may have unintended consequences that we're not seeing right now. But I mean, it's something that could be looked at.
I mean, from the high school standpoint, I know there's still year-long classes, obviously, that,
Right.
geometry or whatever AP courses that are taught, but for the most part, there are a lot of semester courses that may be impacted that it is no one's intention here, one way or the other, whichever side of the coin you land on, to cause mental stress for any of these kids.
Right.
And I understand we don't want to cause any additional stress for the adults either, but my first and foremost job here is to represent the students and what's best for the kids. So, if it's possible to split the semesters, that makes sense for the high school as well as the others, then.
I think if the board doesn't approve what has been brought to them, then it goes back to the committee.
And then they can talk about it amongst
And they
themselves.
can talk about other solutions.
So to me, the thing I get hung up on is the 17 days. Because, I hear the getting done with the tests ahead of the break or after or whatever. But to me, preparation for a test and the test should be a few days. I wouldn't think that would take 17 days. So I kind of got to think in that 17 that there's some content that's being cut out also, So that worries me if it's content that somebody needs on the ACT or something, and then they don't pass that section, and they think, I got ripped off because I took it the first semester instead of the second semester, That's the kind of thing I'm more concerned
But
about.
I also understand, fourth grade classrooms having to come back after break and have 2 weeks to fill of fluff because they could have had it done and then started something new.
They got plenty to do, don't worry.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying, just to put it on hold for.
But I think that they have it, they'll plan it and they won't, you know what I mean? Like, if they know that that's the way it's coming, they stop here with this, because they do, their sections how they are, and then they'll move on, afterwards, and especially if it's a couple weeks, they can get stuff in those, before they do the testing when we come back, instead of it just being a couple days and then we take your test. If it was, a couple weeks, they have time to get their stuff completed, to review the stuff, and then they're back in their motion again, and they're doing the stuff. It's 20-something% is a lot to take away out of a class that we're taking away from the kids in that classroom.
Am I thinking of that wrong? It's not really 17 days, it's half that, correct? Half comes in and half goes the other, or is it full 17?
It's full 17.
Okay.
17 days
17
more in the
days.
second semester.
Yeah, so it would be split.
It's split, right.
You would
So-
have 8 days
so
on
I'm
the
not
side
thinking-
and more 8 days.
Yeah, 8,
more on the
so you're
other
looking
side.
at 8.5 and 8.5. So your deficiency is half of your total number of days.
No, because you're still spending then 17 days on the back end of that. So to rectify it, you would pull one in 8.5 days and push one out 8.5. But if you don't do that, you still have a 17-day deficiency. The gap between the two is still 17 days.
You have a 17-day, additional 17 days on the second semester that you have to fill too. But yeah, to rectify it, like you said, you would have 8 on one, 8 on the other. But the deficiency is 17, 15 and 22.
Is it time to call for a vote?
Yeah, so hang on, I gotta see what I got here. So the recommendation before you is the calendars in your agenda for 2021 and 22, and then 22, 23. Do you want to take those together or separate?
I take them together.
Together?
Yep.
So I'll need, the motion is to accept the calendar as recommended. The FZEA has already voted and approved the calendar before you, so I need a motion to approve this as well.
I move for approval as presented for these two calendars.
Okay, second? George. Callahan, George. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye.
Aye.
Let's take a roll call.
John,
Yes?
Tommy,
Yes.
Mike,
I'll be the tiebreaker.
Mike's going, Erica,
No.
Tom,
No.
Craig,
No.
Mike McCormick.
Okay, there's no need for me to vote.
Will you have to or no?
Huh?
Do you have to or no?
I can. Yes. But the noes have it, so we'll have to send this back to committee.
Okay.
I would just like to make the recommendation when it goes back to committee to look at that the FZA really look at getting a more robust response to their survey to represent more of the teachers. To really try to do a push on that, to try to get an idea of what it really looks like, since we had such a low response to the survey this time.
I second Mr. Moore's statement.
Yes, and if they can get somebody on the committee, I know it's volunteer, but somebody on the committee that really has those semester classes that can give some input, maybe have some suggestions and work with.
Paul, you were on the committee. Was there anybody that would fit that bill?
Their representative is a high school, their chair is a
So
high
that
school
would be a
teacher, but
semester.
she's not a semester teacher.
Not?
No, but they shared that feedback. I do think, the vote is the vote, but like one point or issue to discuss with this is not all semester teachers may feel that same way as what was represented, and that's something that as we enter into negotiations, we'll have to discuss.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments from the board, Mr. Callahan?
Oh. Glad to be here, sir. But I am ready for spring.
You and I both. That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. George?
It's cold, stay safe. Thanks for the first responders being out there. I know it's been a rough week. I can attest to that, and that's about it.
Mr. Moore?
100 days of school during a pandemic. I mean, that is a phenomenal accomplishment. And that's not an accomplishment of the board, that's an accomplishment of everyone in the community, the administrators, the teachers, the custodians, the bus drivers, the maintenance crew. It has been everyone. It's been the parents, it's been the students. And I think that's just the best thing ever. That's just the best thing that we could have coming through this. That despite all the hurdles and the odds and the hills and all the negativity that came around us opening, I think we showed that it could be done, and it was done. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But did it accomplish the right goal of getting kids in school, keeping them engaged? Yes, it did. Did it help parents and community out? Absolutely did. And as Dr. Gray said, it was the right decision. And again, it wasn't anything that the board did. All we did is just approve everything to say, go and be successful, and everyone was successful. And just can't thank everyone enough. And that is a huge accomplishment, and it's something to be very, very proud of as a community. There are schools across this nation still that are not open. Even though the CDC has been saying for months to be open and get kids in school. We've spent money out of our own coffers to pay for PPE and getting people back to school and doing it as safely as we can, under the guise of that it's best for the students to be in class, best for them to be there. And we did it, and that is a huge, huge accomplishment. And congratulations, everybody, and thank you for everybody for doing that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McCormick?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, so well said. And I apologize for being late tonight. My furnace is out at home, and I had to be there while the guys were working on it. And, you know, it would happen at the coldest time of the year, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, so you were talking about first responders. I'd like to give a shout out to those guys that go around and work overtime doing repairs on things like home heating systems. But, and finally, John, good to see you back in person.
Oh, thank you, sir. I had to be here.
Tom?
I want to give a kind of a focused shout out. I had a conversation with a few of our guidance counselors and crisis counselors over the last few weeks, and with everything we've been talking about, the mental health, the overall just stress that's been associated with this year, and frankly every year, our guidance counselors really go above and beyond to be that support agent for our students, to be there to kind of catch their concerns and their stress and their anxieties, but not just our students. They're also kind of the catchers for the concerns and the loads of our teachers and our other staff as well. And I think sometimes, not intentionally, but you may forget sometimes just the amount of work that's on their plates above and beyond just academic counseling. And just want to kind of call them out and say thank you across the district for what they do.
Thank you. Very good.
Just want to remind everybody tomorrow is National Kindness Day. So if everybody would please be kind and do something kind, but also when you're doing it, remember a student that we lost, Kiera Stout, who that's what she wanted, was everybody to do a kind, random act of kindness. So we still remember you, and we always will. And I hope that everybody hearing this will do something kind, whether it be say something kind to somebody online or in person. That would be great.
That was a very nice comment.
Yes, it was.
Although I'm a day early.
Hey, you never have too much kindness.
I would, as I always do, say that we appreciate our administrators and our staff, our teachers. But I have to tell everyone, since it is Board Appreciation Week and recognition, I don't necessarily care to be recognized in this respect, but I do want to say how much I enjoy working with you, this board, each one of you. This has been an incredibly fun year because we've gone through adversity unlike any other year that I've ever been on the board. And I've also seen a lot of diverse thinking, thoughts, opportunities for debate, and it's been frustrating at times, but at the most, it has been for the betterment of our school district. And each one of you, if you feel like I do, there are days that you just want to hang it up. This year has been tough, but I just applaud each one of you and your efforts, and I thank you for serving on this school board, because it is the pinnacle of public service. And I don't know if I would rather spend my time on this board with anybody else. So congratulations to you guys. So that's all I've got. With that, I need a motion for this board to go into closed session. We will look at the minutes from our December 17th closed session. We have student personnel, hiring, firing, promotion personnel. We'll do this under, I don't see it on here, but Missouri RS 610 subsection 14. Need a motion.
Howard?
Second,
Callahan, second. Roll call, please.
Craig?
Yes.
Mike McCormick?
Yes.
John?
yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Erica?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take a
I go what?
We're good?
No, we're good.
Okay, so we're back in open session. Need a motion. Close the meeting
To adjourn.
to adjourn.
I'm in charge.
Emmons, do I have a second? More. Roll call.
Craig,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.